Good morning. Thanks for joining us for this election year kickoff for my campaign for Cuyahoga County Executive. At 1 o'clock, I'll file my petition at the Board of Elections to become an official candidate for county executive. I launched my campaign last February. Since then, I've talked to thousands of voters. There's a real desire for change that helps people without growing the government. While campaigning last year, I realized how much our county government was failing our citizens. I reached out to my friends, Councilman Joe Jones and Councilman Kevin Conwell. We found a program that helps restaurants get through the pandemic. So Joe and Kevin and I walked through Ward 1 and Ward 9 in Cleveland and talked to restaurateurs. We helped 8 of them secure about $400,000 in federal and state grants. One of them will be joining us later this morning to speak about her experience using this money. I also worked with important nonprofit institutions like Karamu House, United Black Fund, and YWCA to secure an additional $1.6 million in federal and state relief to help get them through the difficult time of the pandemic. That's the kind of leadership I'll bring day one to Cuyahoga County, helping people solve their problems. Unlike other candidates in this race, I have a specific and detailed vision for the county. It's called Cuyahoga 2030. You can find it at www.weingart2022.com. I want to highlight 3 elements of that vision here this morning. The first is urban wealth generation. I surveyed counties in the Midwest, urban counties like Cuyahoga, and I found that we were the poorest, the most unemployed, and the hungriest. For the last 60 years, we've addressed these problems of poverty, unemployment, and hunger with social programs. We have to acknowledge they've not worked as we would have liked. I believe we need a different approach to solve issues like hunger, unemployment, and poverty, and crime, which is attendant to those 3 conditions. I have a plan that will create wealth that starts and stays in the urban core of Cuyahoga County, the city of Cleveland, the first ring suburbs, and other parts of the county. There are 3 elements to this program. The first is private home ownership. Initiative I'm calling 10,000 Homes for Cuyahoga County, a $600 million program, $100 million from Cuyahoga County that leverages $500 million in private capital from banks, mortgage companies, foundations, and other private sources to help 10,000 families build, buy, renovate, or repair a private home in Cuyahoga County. This program is not for apartments or rental properties or landlords. It's to extend private home ownership in Cuyahoga County. The second element is targeted job creation. Unfortunately, most unemployed people in the county live in the urban core and the first ring suburbs. We tried for a long time to move unemployed people out to jobs in the far-flung suburbs. That has not worked. So instead, I want to incentivize companies to form, expand, grow, and stay in the urban core where there's better access to public transportation and we can employ people who are currently unemployed. The third element is entrepreneurship. I started my small business 20 years ago. I could have walked into any bank in town and gotten the capital I needed just based on my signature to start a business. That opportunity is not available to most urban entrepreneurs. So I will create a $10 million urban entrepreneurship fund to provide training and startup capital to urban entrepreneurs. We can encourage the formation and growth of small businesses in the city of Cleveland and the urban core through this initiative. I want to introduce Angela Sharpley, who's an entrepreneur that I met last year on the campaign trail, one of the restaurateurs that I mentioned to you earlier this morning. She'll tell you how she used the grant funds that she and I procured for her business.
Thank you, Lee. Good morning. My name is Angela Sharpley. I'm the owner of Piping Hot Grill Seafood Restaurant. In 2021, during a Zoom call concerning funding for small businesses, the leaders commented that if the businesses have professional representation, for applications could be processed more rapidly. We had no one. I reached out to local banks, but they had no open appointments. The same week, we were introduced to Lee at our business. Lee offered to submit our paperwork at no cost to our business. We had 4 applications and Lee submitted all of them. Because of Lee's help, we were funded a grant which enabled us to keep our business afloat and cover our manufacturing costs to bottle our tea, which has been selected to launch in major retail stores, as well as to partner with e-commerce platform recently founded by a professional athlete. Lee supported our vision. Lee was there for us, and this is why we are here for Lee. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. It's a great story, a great Cleveland story, starting a business and taking it national. I think she'll do very well. The second program I want to speak about today is property tax relief for senior citizens on fixed incomes. Cuyahoga County has among the highest property taxes, not just in the state of Ohio, but in the entire country. In fact, we're in the top 5% of all counties in America when it comes to property taxes. In 2020, the Cuyahoga County raised its portion of the property tax by 20%. And last year, we saw massive across-the-board increases in property valuations across the county. That will lead ultimately to higher property taxes throughout Cuyahoga County. Many senior citizens are concerned about losing their homes to rising property taxes. In fact, I spoke to a homeowner in Ward 1 in Cleveland. She's 87 years old, has owned her home since 1965, and she is scared of losing her home to rising property taxes. So last year, I convened 4 listening sessions, one in Ward 1, one in Ward 17, which is West Park, one in Euclid, and one in Parma. We talked to seniors who potentially could lose their homes to higher property taxes. Help me to formulate the following property tax relief program that is now part of my campaign for Cuyahoga County Executive. The first element is this: for all property owners in Cuyahoga County, and that's residential, industrial, and commercial, I commit that I will not raise the county's portion of the property tax during my term as county executive. Secondly, for people who are over 60 years old and whose household income is less than $50,000 a year, we will roll back the taxable value of their home to the pre-2021 level. We will freeze that value until the home sells or otherwise transfers. Third, for people in that same category, over 60 years old and less than $50,000 a year in household income, who've owned their homes for at least 20 years, I'll reduce the taxable value of that home by an additional 20%. Freeze that value until the home sells or otherwise transfers. The advantages of this program should be clear. First, it will keep seniors in their homes longer, and that's good public policy. Secondly, it'll encourage development and integration without gentrification, a problem that we've seen in places like Ohio City and Tremont, and we are now seeing in University Circle. I believe that taking care of seniors, keeping them in their homes longer, is an important public policy, and that's now part of my campaign for Cuyahoga County Executive. The third element I'll speak about today is our county sheriff. As you know, the sheriff is the highest ranking law enforcement officer in the county. He has a life and death job, as we have discovered. Since 2018, 13 people have died in the county jail. I believe the sheriff should be accountable to the people of Cuyahoga County, not just to the county executive or the county council. So I'm calling for an elected county sheriff. As county executive, I'll work with county council to establish the parameters and qualifications for candidates for the office based on law enforcement experience, education, and other important criteria. I'll put the initiative on the ballot in 2023 or no later than 2024. And I will campaign personally to pass the initiative to bring an elected sheriff back to Cuyahoga County. Again, I think the advantages of an elected county sheriff should be straightforward. When we had an elected county sheriff, when I was county commissioner, there were very few deaths in the county jail. I believe holding the sheriff accountable to the voters will ensure better treatment of the defendants in the county jail. And that's our responsibility as county officials. We must provide a humane environment for defendants in the county jail. I believe a county sheriff who's elected will do just that. You can run for county executive to be someone, or you can run to do something. As you can see, I am running to do something. In fact, a lot of things. This is a campaign of ideas, not a campaign of ideology. The citizens want real change. As the experienced outsider, as a former county commissioner, I'll bring the change to get our county going again. When I think about Cuyahoga County, I'm reminded of a quote from Hubert Humphrey. He says, "We must judge our governments by this standard: how we treat our citizens at the dawn of life, our children, how we treat our citizens in the twilight of life, our seniors, how we treat our citizens who are in the shadows, the poor, the addicted, the incarcerated." These are the people that Cuyahoga County serves every day: abused children, neglected seniors, families in crisis, those who lack resources, those who are addicted, and those who are incarcerated. Cuyahoga County cannot be a great place to live for some of us until it's a great place to live for all of us. The program I outlined today, I believe, will make Cuyahoga County a better place for all of us. And that is why I'm running for Cuyahoga County Executive. Thanks for your attention. I'll take your questions if you have them now.
Sam Howard.
Hi, Sam.
Hey, Lee, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks for the presentation today. Your policies are very specific, and in fact, I'm sure they'll be appreciated by many in the urban core and the inner suburbs, as you say. How would you pitch these programs that you've announced to residents in the deeper suburbs in the county? Why are these beneficial to everyone, even for those who are not living in the city and inner ring suburbs, as you say?
Great. So I've met with citizens throughout the county and some of the further out suburbs, as you mentioned. We all recognize the importance of the city of Cleveland, the mother city to the county. As Cleveland goes, so goes the county. If you have any question about that, you can look at what happened to Wayne County, Michigan, when Detroit had its problems in the 80s and 90s. we're all in this together. It's one county. And people that I've talked to in places like North Royalton and Strongsville and Chagrin Falls recognize that we must keep Cleveland strong, that the resources ought to be devoted to the place where we have the greatest challenges. And that, I believe, is the urban core and the first ring suburbs.
And can I have a follow-up there?
Of course, yes.
Follow-up is County Executive Armin Budish, I think 2 State of the Counties ago, announced a similar plan to incentivize companies to grow in the along transit routes and in the inner city. And as far as I know, that hasn't been successful. What sort of incentives are you thinking about to induce these companies to grow closer to public transit and closer to where the workers are?
Sure. So the county has a limited budget for economic development. It's about $10 million out of a $1.6 billion budget. I would use some of the resources that we have for the federal resources in 2020 and 2021. We outright grants, help with payroll, tax incentives. We really want to drive employers to the urban core. So a good example is Midtown Corridor. You've got a number of companies that have located there. So that's a good model that we could use for places like Glenville and Mount Pleasant and Huff. So I'm talking, real investments, co-investments by the county to help bring these jobs back to the core of the county.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Lee. Nick Castell here. Hope you can hear me all right.
Again, thanks, Nick.
Great. Thanks for doing this. I have a question about the elected sheriff proposal. The story of the elected sheriff in Cuyahoga County ended with that sheriff being charged with theft in office, and the turning over to an appointed sheriff was one of these sort of post-corruption reforms. How would you address that question or issue of going backward to potentially a situation where the sheriff is a politician again?
Yeah. So before we had an elected sheriff, he was a politician. There were no requirements for the office. I would work with county council to set requirements based on law enforcement experience, education, and other important qualifications. So we would have people running for the office who are qualified to hold the office. The current county sheriff, Chris Valland, has done a better job than maybe his predecessors had done, and he could certainly run for the office. But I think the problems that we have with the prior elected sheriff pale by comparison to the problems we've had with an appointed sheriff, which is 13 deaths in the county jail. So if we have minimum criteria for candidates for the office, I believe we'll have good people step forward from both parties to seek the office.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay, well, I think that's the end of the questions. Again, thank you for joining us today for this press conference. At 1 o'clock, I'll be going to the Board of Elections to file my petitions to run for county executive, and I intend to become the next county executive of Cuyahoga County. Thank you again.